Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Right, so today quite long awaited video that I should have made earlier, but nonetheless I am here now doing it as we speak. It's rank 4 Punisher 2099, and for those of you who do not know, I am personally quite a big fan of this character. I have had him at rank 3 for ages, and I think he is quite awesome. So huge thank you to Ankit first and foremost for recording this footage. He has submitted quite a few videos over the time with his fairly unique rank up choices, and I will leave a link to his channel as well in the video description, as well as obviously huge shout out to Evzone, which is how this video got submitted to me. And if you want to submit your gameplay, then reach out to me via Evzone, and that is by far the best way how to get in touch with me and send over the gameplay files without compromising the video quality. And also it's completely free, so definitely check out Evzone. They are amazing internet messaging and file transfer service. All the links in the video description, but let's get to it. So rank 4 Punisher 2099. One cool thing about Punisher is that Punisher 2099 is that if you run multiple copies of Punisher Synergy, you can start with battery above 100 as well if need be. But obviously, in most cases, you will not dedicate a full Synergy team to the guy. However, in a situation like this against Winter Soldier, we're about to see some serious damage. So Punisher gets a notable attack bonus whenever he enters, his battery fully charged mode, when his battery turns orange. And then also it is a massive armor break that he places with his level 2 that also increases his damage by quite a bit, to a point where his mediums do like 12k, and at that point he's hitting very, very hard. And obviously the Punisher's kind of like coolest bit of utility, by far not the only bit of utility, but coolest bit of utility, is the fact that he reduces opponent's combat power rate drastically. If you max out Color Tech Mastery, then opponents basically cannot gain any power in most situations. But even if you don't max out that Mastery, we can see that in a 500 HP fight with rank 4 Punisher, the soldier basically gets like one special throughout the entire fight or something like that. And that's it. Obviously, he's not the hardest hitting character. However, his damage is actually very good, especially considering the fact that you basically spend no time baiting out opponents' special attacks. And normally, if your AI is more aggressive than Realm of Legends Winter Soldier, you can finish out the fights extremely quickly. And with level 1, so you can maintain your battery for kind of long amounts of time. Now here, he just ran out of his batteries and armor breaks towards the very end of the fight. But all that combined, I think that initial burst and how little power Winter Soldier was able to get throughout the fight was quite impressive. And now he's just going to go for level 2 to finish it off. And there is that armor break. With armor break alone, again, you are doing very solid amount of damage, even if your battery is not like in overdrive. So it obviously does look like it was quite a few hits, but again, keep in mind that a lot of hits came when Winter Soldier was at like last 10% of the health. And then on top of it, Punisher does have like multi-hit special attacks. I think there's like 8 hits on each of the special attacks, or 9 hits on each of the special attacks. Let's see what he's trying to demonstrate here. I suppose he's going to be showing off that regen, because he does have automatic regeneration ability as well. That can be quite potent based on the amount of battery that you have. And how high up is he going to heal? To 44%. So that is not the most potent regen. However, it is decently workable in my opinion. Definitely can be enough to kind of like let you carry on in the quest and offset chip damage. Okay, here we have, here we have the text. Okay, let's see. Let's see how this works out. At this point, even without color tech, I believe that is with Mr. Fantastic's pre-fight, yes, opponents gaining no power at all whatsoever. So it is worth to note. I actually hadn't kind of like thought about this particular synergy here, where, yeah, Mr. Fantastic synergy can kind of like work as a pseudo color tech mastery in case you don't have it unlocked, to make sure that opponents gain absolutely zero power. It's quite neat in my opinion. And you can maintain it fairly easily, again, due to the fact that you do not have to worry about baiting out opponent's special attacks. So you just get your level 1s, spam your level 1s, make sure that your battery lasts forever, and Winter Soldier gets absolutely wrecked. And now, what is this going to be? Fast-forwarded Star-Lord fight? Okay, interesting. Let's see how he does against Labyrinth of Legends Star-Lord. Even though Punisher is definitely not necessarily kind of like a high-damage champion, in my opinion, designed, let's say, for Labyrinth fights. I definitely do think that he can do very solid amounts of damage, but, you know, realistically, he's not a Labyrinth of Legends champion or Abyss champion. He's more of a Alliance War, Battlegrounds, and questing type situation champion, in my opinion. But still, not bad having those 12k mediums with 1 armor break and the battery on. Now he drops his level 1 again, significantly extends the life of that battery. And Punisher 2099 used to be so much worse, but he's one of those champions that definitely improved drastically with a simple value buff. He was one of the first value buffs, if not the first value buff that I remember, kind of like properly announced as a value buff. And ever since then, I definitely have enjoyed this guy quite a bit. Okay, now this fight, we have Power Shield and Recharge. I don't think this is kind of like the... I mean, it works fine, but you know, on Recharge, you don't get to see kind of his utility, but you do get to see the special damage there, which is, you know, somewhat decent with the level 2. But if I was Ankit, I would have been trying to rush to another level 2 with the Recharge. Try and see how big would the damage be with 2 armor breaks. But I digress. This is not me. Even those level 1s are chipping away that Cyclops fairly quickly. But yeah, in these kind of situations, we can't really see his base hit damage, and we definitely do not benefit at all from Punisher reducing opponent's combat power rate. So all the basic hits are kind of, in my opinion, relatively unneeded here. But let's see, what is he going to be doing against here? Spite and Mirror Image. Okay. So this, again, should be one of those fights where Punisher does quite well. I do like the fact that, you know, he doesn't have any base buffs on himself. So he is one of those champions that you can bring in against nodes like Spite and stuff like that. And unless there is some sort of outer factor, like unless you're going up against a champion that places buffs on you, or there's a node that forces you to have buffs, Punisher can quite easily go without having any buffs pretty much the entire fight, especially considering that you hardly have to bait out any special attacks, and that always reduces your need to dex as well. As we're probably going to see in this fight where we have Spite node, and you just don't have to dex, because you don't have to bait out special attacks. You can pretty much all the time be in aggro mode, and you're happy. And if opponent throws special attack, fine. But there's that Wade got him a bit. Fair enough. And he's just going to go for level 1. And yeah, the entire fight is about to be finished now without having to dex a single time or triggering Spite, basically, with that. So let's see what's going to be here. Achilles is on Footloose. Obviously, Footloose, again, is going to be one of those nodes. In Malcolm's of Champions, and this is exactly kind of like the basis of why Power Control and why Punisher 2099 is as powerful upon a closer inspection. Because in this game, we have a lot of champions who become troublesome when they throw special attacks, because that is, you know, when a lot of errors occur, when a lot of abilities get activated, and so are the nodes, you know. Basically, most of the trouble comes with special attacks in MCOC. Whether it is baiting them, whether it is blocking them, whether it is suffering through them or evading them. If opponent doesn't get to throw many or any special attacks, then the fight becomes, you know, basically as simple as possible, which is the entire reason why magic is as powerful, for instance. And that same thing often applies to Punisher. If opponent does not throw a special attack, and they have Footloose node, well, then nobody cares that they have the Footloose node, because they never throw a special attack and that node is never activated. Similar things happen with, I don't know, now we have Ant-Man, who puts an unsteady debuff on you whenever he throws a special attack, whether he connects or not. But if Ant-Man can't get to a special attack, he will never place an unsteady debuff on you, and you have nothing to worry about. And here's obviously another example of Punisher's specific brand of power control being perfectly viable, and that is against all or nothing. Because even in a super long fight where opponent gets to level 3, Punisher does have that awakened ability that automatically drains their power and power locks them if they reach a special 3. So even in situations where they would get a battle power or would get to a level 3 somehow, you know, Punisher can quite safely mitigate that scenario, provided that you have some battery in you. And it's just quite as simple as that. Now he's going to be going up against War Machine, and that all or nothing absolutely meant, well, nothing. This is the same node against. And against Spidey, obviously, you do not want him to throw any special attacks, so he's just going to have to wait a bit until his battery fully charges up. So that took, what, 2 parries? And now that's it. Spidey can sit there and be happy, never throwing special attack. All or nothing doesn't matter. And Spidey's weight doesn't matter. Again, going back to the previous point where a lot of trouble starts when special attacks get used. Well, Spidey doesn't use special attack. He can't evade in this particular instance. Which is, again, very straightforward. Sigil Witch is identical case to all of these situations before. In order for Sigil Witch to become any threat at all, with Mystic Dispersion or without and stuff like that, she needs to have access to her special attacks in order to start building up her instabilities. Without her instabilities, she doesn't place debuffs on you, she doesn't gain buffs, you don't gain buffs, nobody goes unblockable, and everybody lives happily ever after. And if she never gets to a special attack in the fight, then, you know, she's basically an Iron Fist. Because there's just nothing to do. Don't need to worry about evading her special attacks. And you certainly don't need to worry about any of her other abilities. So just beat her up. Absolutely senselessly. And here we are. And again, because you don't need to bait out special attacks, for instance, even if that Scarlet Witch has Mystic Dispersion on, you know, you never need to trigger Dexterity. And because of that, they never gain any power from Mystic Dispersion. In several of the metas, I have personally put in Black Widow. Sorry, not Black Widow. I have personally used Punisher 2099 in my own decks as well. And I do have a sneaking suspicion that in a near future, we are going to see Siphon tactic or Siphon meta. Because Kabam seemed to be going through all the Alliance War defensive tactics and applying them to like all the champions. And Siphon was basically whenever opponent makes contact with you, they gain a block penetration charge. And then, you know, they hit very, very hard in the block. So I do think that Punisher 2099 is potentially going to be very awesome for that defensive tactic offensively, because you can just be like super aggressive and you know, play with intercepts and never need to bait out special attacks, and also defensively because his special attacks cannot be evaded. So it is a very decent chance that I might end up using my Punisher 2099 in my Battlegrounds deck as well in near future again, and I did use him before as well. Now we have Burnout, and this is going to be another kind of brand of Punisher's power control. Like, obviously, Punisher's ability to significantly reduce opponent's combat power rate is going to come into play early on here, because Sorcerer Supreme, yes, she does gain power over time, just like Doctor Strange, but she also gains power from being struck. And if you take away that power from being struck and leave her natural power gain, then the fight is immediately much more manageable. But here's going to be that situation which we talked about before, where even if opponent somehow gets to a level 3, as long as you have some juice in your battery, you're going to be perfectly fine and safe. And we're going to see that in just a minute right here, where Sorcerer Supreme is going to push herself to a level 3 and immediately gets power drained and power locked. So I'm going to rewind it. That's the awakened ability, which is quite cool. So we're going to see again. We're going to start spamming those specials, gaining a ton of power with the burnout and everything else. Goes to level 3, immediately gets power drained and power locked. And then the fight is back under control. Really nothing to worry about there. And now what's going to be interesting against this Jubilee fight? I think this is the same Burnout node again with the same implication, except it's going to be easier because obviously Jubilee does not have any innate power gain. Therefore, it immediately becomes a lot easier to deal with this type of fight. Where if she doesn't start using special attacks again, all of those fancy Burnout nodes and everything else, they just do not matter. And at that point, Jubilee just becomes kind of like cannon fodder for Punisher. Now, he does get clapped in the face a little bit here. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. He's going to go in for his level 1. Now she has 1 bar of power. Big whoop. But she's also getting to her demise very quickly here. So here we go. Sweet. He didn't go for level 1 then, but he does now. And lost 3%. Nice intercept there to boot. Right, and we do have a continuation to this one. The next fight is against Vulture with Power Snack, Hard Knock Life. Hard Knock Life is what? Power Snack is obviously, again, another node application where you do not think Punisher might be amazing for, but he is. Because, again, of his power control mechanics, you don't really need to bait out any special attacks from the opponent. And because of that, you're not going to be triggering dexterity much, if at all, and because of that, Power Snack is not really an issue. So it's such a straightforward and simple piece of utility that just has so many implications and applications throughout the game that I do think a lot of people are still completely kind of oblivious to, or do not think to that degree, which is exactly why I was looking forward to showcasing this video. Because it's absolutely awesome. We have Power Snack, we have Jacked Vulture or whoever else, and Power Snack doesn't get triggered a single time in the entire fight. It's absolutely awesome. The best way how to deal with a node like that. And here he's going to go in for another level 2. Sweet. Done and dusted. And that's one dead flying bird wannabe. I suppose this is the same node combination now up against Archangel, and it's going to be exactly the same situation. You just get your battery charged. From that point, opponents gaining no power. You do not need to dex to try and evade their special attacks. And you just go and smack them in the face, build up to your level 2. As soon as you drop your level 2, then you get a massive armor break. Your damage gets increased by a very significant margin. And the fight is pretty much yours to lose from that point forward. There is one more trick that I do not know whether we will or will not see showcased in this video that Punisher can do, which is kind of fun and cheesy, but you do need a fairly specific situation and or setup for that stuff to work. But we'll see if Ankit shows that to us. It has to do with his heavy attack stun, which can be very fun. I think it's possibly, with the exception of Ronan, the longest possible sustained stun that's manageable in game. And here we are. I don't even know what is this node. I think this is Mercy, something of the sort. Is it Mercy? I don't know. What was this node? Well, that Silver Surfer is definitely getting wrecked very soon, but what was the node? Okay, so a solid level 2 right there. Oh, I think I remember it now. Where they gain a ton of furies, and if they use... Oh, no. No, I don't remember. What is this? Ah, well. Guess I'll die not knowing. This is one of the weapon nodes. That much I can tell. Oh, I think this is a special 1 spam node, where special 1s, if weapon is disabled, get a ton of damage. Yeah. I think this was from Act 8.1. Okay, let's see what is the next fight there. Because he definitely does put in quite a lot of effort in these. So I'm quite sure that this is the special 1 spam weapon node, where you want to disable the weapon when they are in the corner, and then you have like 800% damage increase on your level 1. Does that make sense? Think. It's like, think, KT1, think. You know this. Or is it a level 2? I think it's a level 1. So he builds up to his level 2 as he would do in any other fight. He drops his level 2, gets in a massive armor break, disables that Doc Ock weapon out. Oh yeah, here we go. The big damage on level 1. That is definitely level 1 weapon node. See, we got there in the end. We deduced this thing. I have vague memories of doing this lane actually. But even, you know, without that damage increase, look at them. Sweet 13k medium crits there. Absolutely nothing to snuff at. Except this. You can snuff at this. Okay, it's a bit clumsy sometimes. Okay, let's move on to the next fight. What are you going to show us now? Come on, next node. How Mr. Sinister, Arc Overload, Technical Suppression, Vigorous Assault, Tech Ascendancy, Return Pulse. This is quite interesting because this is not necessarily... Well, I mean, Arc Overload is going to provide that heal block. So, Punisher 2099 does have love-hate relationship with heal block, which is kind of interesting and funny at times. Number one, offensively, you often kind of don't want that heal block to trigger, and it can be pesky and annoying when it does. Because it drains your battery, and you want your battery to have maximum uptime, and in plenty of cases, it's more important to have longer lifetime on your battery being charged than having access to that heal block. It also, annoyingly, does not trigger on passive heal effects. That automatic, futuristic heal block debuff is outdated because it only triggers on heal block, heal buffs, so passives do not trigger it. But at the same time, it can be extremely handy to have access to that automatic heal block at times when an opponent would heal like massive amounts of burst. And obviously, once the heal block is triggered, it works fully like any other heal block would, and then at that point, it does, in fact, stop the passive heal effect and all that other stuff. But in order to trigger it, you need fights where heals actually coming in a form of a buff, at least some of the time. Like here, for instance. It does not trigger on Mr. Sinister's passive heal effect. It does trigger, however, because of Arc Overload. Now his battery is about to get recharged once again. So here's going to be his heal block debuff suite. He goes for a big level 2 here. 39k crit. That's thanks to the technical suppression. He does have some sort of damage increase as well from that. I believe 40%. And now that Punisher is soon to be KO'd. So a fairly reasonable good solution. Obviously, you still have to play around the unblockable in a scenario like this, but definitely kind of a very interesting out-of-the-box counter for this fight. And I do quite like that. And now we're going to have some Battlegrounds footage. Oh, this is always my favorite part. Whenever somebody submits a gameplay footage, this is definitely my favorite part. And here we are. So we have a rank 4 Punisher against a big fat Mojo. And Punisher is actually very, 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 very good Mojo counter. Because you, again, do not really have to worry about baiting out special attacks. I typically tend to just parry initially in these fights instead of striking the opponent. But he chose to do that, which is fair. And now from this point forward, I don't think he will have to bait out any special attacks. One, maybe, based on what type of mastery setup he runs. And if Mojo doesn't get to use his special attacks, if you do not ever have the need to use dexterity mastery, obviously the fight immediately becomes very trivial and really easy. And also time-wise, we can see that he's definitely making a very solid progress where only 1 minute has expired, and that is a fat Mojo, and Mojos do have quite a lot of health. And at this point, he's at like 1%. So when we're going to see the final time of the fight, and it is going to be 62 seconds. So taking down Mojo, 62 seconds with pretty much full health bar, not too bad at all. Bishop obviously is also a very good champion to go up against using Punisher. And we're about to see exactly why. Because typically the problem is, unless you have a perfect counter for Bishop, most champions involve praying to God that Bishop doesn't throw his level 1. Otherwise, you just have to dance around forever, and then all the Bishop fight problems start. And alternatively, when you push Bishop level 2, you still need to be able to evade that level 2, because that is also a way how a lot of people get knocked out against Bishop. Using Punisher 2099, neither one of those two things are problems, because you do not need to suffer through level 1 block damage or following incinerates, or risk mis-evading a level 2. Apparently, you do run the risk of getting parried nonetheless, but, you know, that's Ankit being clumsy at times. That's quite okay. We all are. I know I am too. And here we can see that Bishop barely made 1 bar of power, and he's at 2%, and he's dead in basically under a minute. Fortunately, Ankit chose to place down freaking Mr. Fantastic against Hitmonkey, and obviously he lost that fight. This is going to be the dodge meta. Oh, this was the meta that I hated. I honestly hated dodge meta. Such a nasty meta, those random evades. But we do have one more Bishop fight, obviously. This time he did it. Ooh, this time he did it even faster. Because he didn't go for level 1. So let's see how he does here. So 30 seconds have passed-ish in this fight. He goes for level 2. And that Bishop's at 26%. And then he's just going to go in for 4 hits. Block. And done. 15k medium to finish off the fight. 35 seconds and 55k points. Very, very solid win right there. And obviously he needs to keep us waiting till the win pops up. America Chavez in Broken Protect Mighty Charge meta. This was the meta that I actually did not play at all, pretty much, because I was away for the time. So I really don't have too much experience with this one in particular. But let's see. Punisher 2099 up against Chavez. And obviously, up against Chavez, the special attacks, or at the very least, level 1 is not as much of an issue as her throwing heavies are. But if you do not have to bait out special attacks, I assume this fight is significantly quicker and easier. If your parry game is on point, though, because as soon as she might start throwing heavy attacks, there could be some complications involved. But again, that thing about you not being forced to dex and trying to bait out special attacks, therefore not being forced to trigger Mystic Dispersion, it's important and viable virtually every single time you're going up against the Mystic Champion Battlegrounds, because you do not have to trigger Mystic Dispersion. Oh, he forced the Bishop and Nimrod matchup. Ooh, those are not the nicest ones. You can do the fight, but you're gonna take a damage. So here we are. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, huge thank you to Ankit and to Evzone, and I'm gonna catch you guys later. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about